Now presenting Ancient Babylonia and Ancient Sumer. Their geography. Both Ancient Sumer and Ancient Babylonia lie between two very important rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. As you can see, there's Babylonia and there's Sumer. The reason why these two rivers were very important is because during the spring they would flood, resulting in an increase of crops. These crops eventually made it so where, like any other civilization, the population would also grow. The climate of these two civilizations played a key role in the crops, because in the winter the crops would be very good. This was because of the climate, which was cold and wet. Summer, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, which was dry and hot, resulting in pretty dry land, and the crops weren't very good. Economy and government. Both civilizations had a monarchy, which meant that the king ruled over the people. But the king, in both Ancient Babylonia and Ancient Sumer, had many officials who actually ruled over the people for the king. These officials were the ones who would go out into the civilizations and enforce the rules on the people of the civilization. Over in Babylonia, there was a very important king at one time. He was King Hammurabi, and he declared that he will create rules, because he eventually came upon the discovery of creating a written code of laws. This code of laws was called the Code of Hammurabi. It was a strict legal and moral code for the people. It was very important, especially today, because it set the platform for legal systems in the modern day world.
Sumer also utilized the Code of Hammurabi in their government. The Sumerians were very advanced in weaponry and had bronze swords, bronze chariots, bronze armor, bronze shields, and also had horses. These horses were very important because the Sumerians had a lot of fights with neighboring civilizations. These fights lasted almost 2,000 years. Another great important role model is King Ur-Nammu, and he is very important because he created the Code of Ur-Nammu, which was the basis of the Code of Hammurabi. He also ordered the construction of the Great Ziggurat of Ur, and this is important because it was in every single Sumerian city and was a main governing and religious center. He also conducted the creation of new irrigation systems which moved waste out of the city and moved river water towards the crops, which actually helped the farmers during their farming season, which allowed for good crops. King Ur-Nammu also ordered the reconstruction of the step temples that were destroyed by outside civilizations during invasions. The hammer symbolizes King Ur-Nammu's importance to the society because he rebuilt many temples and incorporated many feats.
Over in Babylonia, there was also a very important king. His name was King Nebuchadnezzar II. One of his greatest accomplishments, and what he is known greatly for, is what is called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. It was created in the center of the city of Babylon, And it was built for his homesick wife who wanted a place where she could be surrounded by plants and water. So he created this, and it is known for its many plants as well as its great irrigation system. But it is controversial because many people believe that it never existed. Even so, it is still considered as one of the 7 wonders of the world. But these were not all of his accomplishments. Like the Sumerian king, King Ur-Nammu, King Nebuchadnezzar was also a very important person in reconstruction of his civilization. He ordered his people to reconstruct many religious centers and buildings in his city. All of this resulted in a great advancement in both power and wealth. He was also known for his great power on the battlefield. At a young age, he was placed at the head of his armies by his father, and this resulted by the time he was king and being very capable to lead his armies and lead his people to great heights.
Trade. In ancient Sumer, the Sumerian society was heavily relied on exportation of goods. This was the basis of their successful economy. However, in Babylonia, the Babylonians relied on importation and exportation of goods. The increased trade resulted in Babylonia becoming an important trading center at that time. And the economy. Because of the increased trade and social activity, both civilizations' economy skyrocketed. Religion. In both ancient Sumer and ancient Babylonia, the people believed in a polytheistic religion. This means that they did not believe in only one god, they believed in multiple gods. And this was what made it unique from other ancient civilizations. Ancient Sumer and ancient Babylonia both did not have a set of gods. This created religious freedom and religious diversity within the community.
Yay!
Yay! As I stated before, the ziggurat is a central governing and religious facility. And this is where the people would go daily to perform religious sacrifices and prayers. What made Sumer unique was that religion was the uniting factor between the people. Even if they had contrasting mindsets or were of a different race, their religion was what brought them together. Both the Babylonians and the Sumerians surprisingly believed in the afterlife, and their beliefs evolved from worshiping gods and into more of a moral individual responsibility.
Science and technology. Over in ancient Sumer, the Sumerians began to look at the sky and to study the stars and the constellations. This resulted in them being known for probably being the very first astronomers. Even though this is true, the Babylonians adopted Sumerian astronomy and fit it into their own studies, resulting in many achievements. This also resulted in Babylonia becoming more famous for their studies in astronomy. Both civilizations studied the stars, mapping it and watching it every night to see where and when they came in the sky. This was very important for both civilizations because they used this information to create calendars. Although the Sumerians were the first to create it, of the two, Babylonia later created their own and even also created a lunar calendar as well. In ancient Sumer, they originally used pictograms as their written language, but then they started to use cuneiform. This is very important because later the ancient Babylonians saw this cuneiform and adopted it as well into their culture and took it to ancient Babylonia and used it as well. When it came to mathematics, it is thought that the ancient Sumerians were the first to create a sexagesimal system based on the number 60. This was for time and anything else with numbers. The ancient Babylonians also incorporated this into their culture and into their studies. All these things made each civilization evolve and grow and power beyond top.
But then no, they were bound to fall. No. Firstly, Sumer and how they fell. So, as we all know, as we told you before, that this river was what actually made Sumer rise and Babylonia. But for Sumer, it provided lots of resources, food, and then this just attracted a lot of people. And eventually there were just too much people. And the region became more overpopulated and the resources just ran out. And the lack of resources also resulted in the lack of food. And eventually, the people started fighting over the food. In ancient Sumer, in the summer, the climates were harsh and dry. And it became so dry that the water in the irrigation systems evaporated, leaving mineral salts. And these mineral salts it intoxicated the soil, leaving it incapable of growing plants, and this is called a rise in salinity. And eventually, after all these hard times, the people started to fight with cultural battles, and they began to go against each other. And this is one of the key points in the fall of Sumer because it's an internal conflict within the civilization. And after that, Sumer was no more.
Now, over to ancient Babylonia and how it fell. What was very funny about the ancient Babylonians is that their fall kind of started with a rise in their economy and stuff, because the guy named King Alexander the Great came to Babylonia on a conquest, and he eventually conquered it. But this was actually kind of a good thing for the ancient Babylonians, because under his rule, trade actually flourished, resulting in Babylonia once again becoming a very popular trading center. But then he developed an illness resulting in his death. And like many other civilizations that lost a really good leader, the civilization slowly began to decline in many different areas of its economy, government, many different aspects. And the weakening of this and the weakening of Babylon resulted in many new things, such as ideas, people, and cultures. And eventually, all these new things began to blend together and resulted in Babylonia being gone. So Babylonia was no more.
Aw.
Well, that's the end.
By Edward Hahn.
And Emmy Allen.
Yeah. Hi, Miss Overmite.
Woo!
How's your day?
Squiggly arms.
This is
Woohoo!
awkward. Bye-bye now. Okay. Peace. Okay, you can hurry up!
Oh my god. It doesn't look like a horse. Well, I'm actually gonna leave it like this because it looks hilarious. It looks like a freaking polar bear. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.